So the first thing that you need to do is let's turn to your table of contents. And we're not going to multi-step just yet because we've only talked about equations, and there's also inequalities. Now we're not going to go back and redo one-step inequalities because what is different between one and two-step isn't going to make a difference. It's only a difference in the final step. So whether you're doing one-step or two-step, the thing that's different besides just solving it, you put it on a graph as well, and it doesn't matter if it's one or two steps. That part's going to be the same. So today we're going to talk about two-step inequalities. Okay, and you actually already know parts of this. We're just adding it together in a new way. So two-step inequalities, it'll be on our next page after what we did yesterday. So after you put it in your table of contents, you want to, this is 31, not 30. You want to go to your next page, and we'll put it there too, the title. It's 31. I put it the same date as yesterday. Nah, I just wasn't thinking. Although I do know what day it is. So, after you put it here, you go to your next page, and you put the date, 8/31, and the title, Two-Step Inequalities. So what we're writing, would you let him in for me, please? What we're writing, I'm going to write on the board. Here, Wyatt. Just because it's easier to read on the board, this is kind of dark sometimes. Thank you, sir. But you're writing it on your page. I'm just going to move up to the board so you can see it easier. All right. So with inequalities, that means instead of an equal sign, you maybe have a greater than sign or a less than sign, or maybe greater than or equal, or less than or equal. So before we even start talking about how to solve them, we're going to remind ourselves what those symbols are. So when you look at the signs, they're easy to get mixed up. Okay? So this is one of them. This is one of them. And I'm going to tell you the difference in a second. This is one of them. And this is one of them. So if you notice, they all look very similar. That's what I'm saying, that it's easy to mix them up. How I tell them apart, it's really silly, and it's the same way that like second graders learn to tell them apart. And for years, I learned as a kid that alligator eats the bigger number. So I knew whatever number was on this side, chomp chomp, would be bigger. But I wasn't able to read it. I couldn't tell you if this was a less than or greater, or if this one was a less than or a greater. I just knew which number was bigger. And then somebody taught me, and it was a person that taught little kids, and it stuck with me ever since. Now, I can't face you and do this. You have to do it to yourself. Hold your hands up like you're making the little ducks. Okay? The left hand, see how it makes an L for left? That's the less than symbol. The right hand, therefore, it doesn't make an L, it's backwards. That's the right, that's the greater. So left is less. Left is less. That's how I remember it. It's silly and it's childlike, but it works. Because, I'm in my 40s, and that's still how I remember it. So if it works, it works. Okay? So your left hand makes the less than symbol. So this one is less than. This one is still your left hand, right? Same symbol, but it has the line under it, and that line means or equal to. Okay? Got your journal, ma'am? Get out, please. This one's greater than. And so this is the same symbol, but with the line. So it's greater than or equal to. So the difference between the top and the bottom is the actual number that you get, whatever the number is, it's not included on the top ones. Because it has to, say the number is 18. For it to be less than 18, it can't be 18. But if it says less than or equal to, then 18 is part of it. Okay? So if I say to be a teenager, you have to be less than 20. Okay? 20 is not included. But if I say adults are 18 and up, 18 is included. Right? Y'all see that the less than 20 to be a teenager, that would be like the top. You wouldn't include the 20. But if I said that you have to be 18 or more to be an adult, that would have to include the line on the bottom. Okay? So when you're graphing it, today we're focusing on number lines. We're just doing one variable. We just have like X's or N's or whatever. We don't have more than one. We don't have an X and a Y. So we're dealing with number lines. So when you shade, if it's less, anything over here, we're going to shade to the left. Now, if we were working with two-dimensional, where we had an X and a Y, like a coordinate plane, it would be to the bottom. It would be below. Okay? If we have greater than, we're going to shade to the right in one dimension. Or if we were dealing with two-dimensional, it would be above. Okay. So, less than, we shade to the left. Remember, left is less. That's kind of how we help remember it. And it's shade below for two-dimensional. We're not dealing with this today, but when we do get a coordinate plane, you know, like the XY axis, you would shade below the line. When you're dealing with greater than, you shade above if you're doing 2 dimensions. Now, like I said, this isn't what we're doing today, but you need to know it for future. So the way I remember whether to go below or to the right is below has an L, just like these. Left, less, above doesn't. So I kind of have those little tricks to help me remember it. Okay? So this is just kind of a review of, and I say review because we've done inequalities in this classroom, you guys and me. So I know that you've learned it at some point, but we've all slept since then. So we're going to review it. Now the next part, of course, is going to be actually practicing it with some numbers, some equations, or in this case, inequalities. Because we don't call them equations if they don't have equals. Okay? But they have a symbol that is in place of the equals, so that's why we call them inequalities, because they're not equal. Anybody still writing this? Okay. So let's do a couple examples. Okay, so I've got a number, and then parentheses, and I've got my inequality symbol, and then a number. So what this means is that -4 times -4 plus x has to be greater than 56. Okay? So after we solve it, we're going to put our answer on a number line. But we save that till last because you can't put it on a number line until you have a number. Okay? So let's think about our order of operations. We're solving, remember PEMDAS, but we're working backwards. Okay? So I have parentheses and a number out front. That means we're doing what? Well, we do normally add first, but we've got parentheses this time. So parentheses with a number out front means what are we actually doing? Yeah, so you have two choices. You could actually distribute this and multiply the outside number by both of the inside numbers, but that does add a step. And remember we talked about yesterday that if you don't bother distributing, it's still only a two-step problem. If I'm multiplying, how do I get rid of it? Divide. So if I divide this side by -4, I have to divide this side by -4. But we have a rule with inequalities that if you ever multiply or divide by a negative, you have to flip your symbol. Okay, so this is a new thing for today. I mean, we've done it in the past. When you were freshmen, we did this. But if you divide or multiply, this is just kind of a side note because we're needing it on this problem, by a negative, you must flip the inequality. So if it was greater, it becomes less. If it was less, it becomes greater. Okay, so since I'm dividing by -4 to cancel here, on this side I've just got what's left in the parentheses, but I've got to flip this around because of this. So I'm going to make that greater than become a less than. Okay? If you don't do that step, you'll end up with the right number part of the answer, but your inequality will be wrong and your line will be shaded wrong. Okay? What's a positive divided by a negative? Positive divided by a negative. No. With multiplying and dividing, if they're the same, it's positive. If it's different, they're negative. It's different than when we're adding and subtracting. So somebody, and you can use your calculator, somebody tell me what 56 divided by -4 is.
-14.
Can you what?
That's about
Yeah, for a quick second. Don't wander off though, you can step out. But. What did you say, Olivia?
-14.
14?
Yeah.
Okay. Alright, so now look at our problem. We don't have parentheses anymore. So we're technically adding, but we're adding a negative, right? Doesn't that mean subtracting when we add a negative?
Yeah.
So how do I get rid of subtraction?
Add it.
Add it. So we're going to add 4 to both sides. So the 4's cancel over here. So x is less than. And then remember, different signs subtract. Keep the sign of the higher number. So 14's higher, so I'm going to keep the negative.
10.
What do I get? Yeah, 10. So on your number line, you know, you'll have numbers, but we're just sketching this one. So we know we have a -10 somewhere. So here would be like -9, -8. On this side it would be -11, -12. Whatever the answer is, we circle that number on the line. Not the actual number label, but on the line. If there's no line under this that shows or equal to, we don't color in the circle. We leave it open like that. And then we shade the direction of that. That's a less than. Less than is left, right? So we shade to the left. But notice I did not fill in the line. The circle. Had that had the line under it to be an or equals, I would have shaded it in because the -10 is not included. X is everything less than that. So not that, but everything less. So the shading goes all the way to infinity. Like I have an arrow here, just implies it keeps going and keeps going and keeps going. Same.
I'm sorry, I have a call.
But you don't answer it if you have a call in the middle of math class.
That's like my mom.
Well, if it was your mom and it was an emergency, she knows you're in class and she'll call at school. You don't answer your phone in the middle of class, man. Especially not without asking for an emergency.
Like, I'm not gonna call, I was gonna like hang it up because I want to be like beeping so like
Alright, well, it should be on silent, right? Well, your headphones should not be in right now, so take them out. You just told on yourself, bro. So, no headphones in the middle of the lesson. Remember, music only when you're working independently, phones only after you're done working. Neither when we're doing the lesson. Okay? We'll do one more example like this. So here's another example. Okay. So no parentheses in this one. So PEMDAS, remember, parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide, add, subtract. But if you're going across to the other side, you do the opposite. So So that means we start with the adding and the subtracting. Do we have one of those here? We don't have an adding or a subtracting here?
No subtraction.
Yeah, so we subtract 3, so how do I get rid of that and move it to the other side? How do I move the subtraction? Add. So we're going to add 3. So this cancels, so we've still got our n over 3 here. We're still bringing down the same symbol because we didn't do anything that would say we need to change it. Wyatt, you should be writing this down, bud. And then different sign subtract, keep the sign of the higher number.
Positive.
Well, which number's higher?
6.
So 6 is negative, so we keep the negative. And then we subtract them. 6 and 3 subtract to give you 3. Okay? Now what math are we doing? We did one step. What's this? Right here. Yeah, it's dividing, so we multiply. So we multiply by the 3. Now notice, this is a positive number. It's not a negative. In our last one, we had the rule that you had to flip the symbol if you multiplied or divided by a negative. We're not doing that here. So this symbol isn't changing. So we've still got our m. We've still got the same symbol. And what's negative 3 times 3?
Positive 9.
Negative times positive?
I mean negative 9.
Yeah, negative 9. So remember, on your number line, they're pre-written. You'll already have numbers there. But I'm just putting a few of them to show in this example. So you put the circle around the number that you get as your answer. Now in the last problem, we didn't fill the circle in because it only had a less. Sam, focus. This has a less or equal. So because it has the or equal, we fill in the circle. But then it's still less than, and less is which direction? Left or right? Less is left. So we go this way again. That means that the solution is from this point to the left forever. Any number to the left of that. Nothing to the right of it. Okay? So do y'all see that the math that we're doing is exactly what we've been doing? The only difference is that you don't have an equal sign, so you have your shading. And then also you have to remember that if you multiply or divide by a negative ever, at any step in the problem, then you flip your inequality. Okay? That's the process. So I'll let y'all look at these for a minute. If you want to pick a problem on here, we can do one more example if need be. If you don't want to, we can just move straight into working on it. Yes, but you still have to get your work done, okay? Okay, let me give you a pass. Did y'all want to work any of these together? Is there one that you need?
7.
7? Is everybody okay with 7? All right, let's look at 7 together. All right, 7 was kind of similar to the one we just did for the simple fact that it has the fraction. But remember, we're working backwards, so we don't deal with the division until after we've dealt with the addition, right? So I'm just going to write this to the side a little bit bigger so we can have room to work. Okay. So how do I get rid of the fact that we're adding 4?
Minus 3.
Yeah, we minus it. So when I minus the 4, they cancel on the left. I'm still left with the n over 3 is less than, and what's 6 minus 4? Six minus 4?
2.
2. So now all I'm doing is dividing, and how do you get rid of that?
Divide by 3.
Yeah, but how do I get rid of it? What's the opposite of dividing? Yeah, we multiply by the bottom, which is 3, but you have to do it on both sides. So they cancel here. So n is less than what? What's 2 times 3?
6.
6. Now notice I didn't flip my sign because the number I was multiplying was not negative. You only flip it when you multiply or divide by a negative. So I circle 6 on my number line. On this problem, do I fill it in or no? No, you're right. Because you only fill it in when it has the or equal line under it. And then which direction is this thing we go? Left or right? Yeah, because it's a less is left. So we shade to the left of it. Okay. So there's your answer. This is your answer, you know, in the process mathematically, and this is your answer graphically. They're the same thing. They're both saying that n has to be less than 6. But we just have to give the answer in 2 ways right now. That's what we're practicing. Okay? Alright, so y'all work on it. And I will point out, if you actually wrote our examples, you should have a couple other answers because the examples came from the page. If you weren't writing the notes like you should have been, then you have 9 more problems to solve. Because there's 10 total. We just did 1, but the 2 examples were on here too.
Wait, which one for the example?
Did you write the examples down?
Yes.
Then you will be able to see them. I promise.
I see one more.
There's 2. All right, y'all work on this.